Hello, everybody. Today we're going to learn the daily Tanya for Kaftes B'Chodesh Addar Beis Taf Shin Pei Daled. So first we'll recap what we learned yesterday. Yesterday we talked about yesterday we discussed Olam HaAtzilus, which is above the worlds of Bria and Yitzira. And the day before we were discussing sort of the different kinds of intention, different kinds of love we can have for Hashem, different kinds of attention we can have while doing mitzvahs. One of them is we'll go from lower to higher. So the lower one is awakening the natural love that we have towards God as children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This is something that is an inheritance. It's something that we all have, and we can awaken it. We can do that. That's the lower love. The higher love comes from a contemplation, a meditation on God's greatness. In other words, the focus is again not on our emotions. The focus is on Hashem. The focus is on Him, on God, on His greatness, and that's what we're kind of focused on. And then he talks about how the lower level brings the neshama to Olam HaYitzira, and the higher one brings us to Olam HaBria. Right? We talked about what that means the day before yesterday, but yesterday we talked about Olam HaAtzilus, which is completely above even Olam HaBria, even the world of, let's say, free will, right? Where there's free choice, existence, non-existence. There's that binary, and the binary is absolute in the sense that there's a singular choice, and that singular choice is not reducible. Choose good or evil. You chose good, therefore your schar isn't Olam HaBria. So Olam HaAtzilus is even above that. It's when you come to a point where God's will is completely present within itself. Okay, that's how we've been talking about it, and it's a bit of a difficult thing to understand. But we're going to get a little bit of illumination on that here, and we're going to go deeper into it, and we're going to talk about something that would seem surprising if you're following along yesterday. So stay tuned. And here this contraction, right? The contraction of Hashem's light, Hashem's wisdom, right? Right? This contraction is what allows a revelation, right? If God's will was just completely manifest within itself and completely present within itself, and we were present within it, and there was nothing outside of it, it was just was all of existence. So there would be no interaction. Okay, there would be no revelation here. There would be no ha'ara, right? Masha'en ken ba'atzilus. Atzilus is different. She'inam b'vchinat tzimtzum kol kach, which does not have so much tzimtzum, which is not so contracted. What he's saying is interesting. He's saying it's not that he's saying that's absolutely not contracted. He's saying it's not so contracted. It is not possible for any created being to receive from there. There's no way. There's no interaction. And therefore, as a created being, we cannot fathom what's going on there. We only exist in and through the contraction of that. We can't understand. It would be non-existence for us. And therefore, and this is the kicker, the greatest tzaddikim do rest. Their fitting place is in Olam HaAtzilus, which is very interesting. And the implications are very interesting and need to be refined before we speak about them. Explicitly, because it's a very surprising thing he's saying here. He's saying shavodatam because their worship, their avodah, היא למעלה מעלה אפילו מבחינת דחילו ורחימו הנמשכות מן הבינה ודעת בגדלות השם. Right? They're even greater their service to Hashem is even greater. It's beyond even av and year. It's even beyond love and awe. Even when that love and awe comes from pure contemplation of God's greatness, right? And this is bina v'dat l'sechel nivra, right? In the same way that the Olam Atzilus, the world of Atzilus, is above contemplation itself. It's above Olam Abriya, right? It's above the contraction of the world itself. Ela avodatam, and this is going to tell us what their service is, what their avodah is. Ela avodatam hayta bivchinat merkava mamash le'insof baruch hu. So their worship was just being a chariot, being a vessel for Hashem's will, for Hashem's light. And to be completely batel. Now I'm going to translate the word batel. Some people translate it as nullification. I think there are problems with that translation. There's a reason they translate it that way. And it's because it does denote a lack of ego, a lack of sort of self-involvement, a lack of thinking of oneself as being separate from God. But I don't think that fully captures the point. I think you start to get a little Buddhist with that if you take that that translation too seriously. I would say it's more like bittul, batel, is more like devotion. But it's devotion in an absolute sense. It's absolute devotion. Absolute devotion, which would entail a kind of nullification. Okay? In other words, nullification is not it's not in itself. I think the devotion aspect is more important. And so this complete devotion, it means just fully being a full and complete self-giving, a full devotion to God, and to become one with His light, which is to say, with His will. Hem v'chol asher lehem. So it's talking about the tzaddikim. So them and everything they have is completely devoted to God 100%. Al yedei kiyum haTorah v'mitzvot, and this is done by learning Torah and doing the mitzvahs. Al derech she'amru, which is like what is said. Ha'avot hen merkava, that the patriarchs are the merkava. The patriarchs are the chariot, are the holy chariot of God. They're the merkava Elyaina, the merkava of Yechezkel. V'hainu lefi shekol yamehem hayta zo avodatam. And why do we describe them? Is that because for their entire being, their entire lives was just complete devotion to God, 100%. And this is very, I gotta say, this is something very difficult and very interesting and very hard to grasp. But we should be zoche to at least some portion of that, as much of that as we can. All right, see you tomorrow.